joined by the CEO of Bold Penguin, Peter Settel. If you've never heard of Bold Penguin before, you came on a great day. They're doing some great work, just killing it in the industry. They are bold for a reason. So today we're going to talk a little bit about his journey, about Bold Penguin, about what does it all the AI innovation mean for you as students, and the future that we are seeing here change the landscape. So before we get started, a couple of things. So we're going to do about 45 minutes of um, Peter, let's get started. How are you doing today? How's
Do-
everything?
doing great, Daniel. Thanks for having me here, and hi everybody. Thanks for making some time to join the chat today. I'm excited for it.
We are too. We are super excited to have a CEO for our virtual campus. And so thank you so much for that. So let's start with your career journey. So tell us a little bit about how did you first find your way into the insurance industry?
I'll give you a quick little background. I actually started a company when I was in my undergraduate program at Babson College, and I was there studying finance and investments. I was doing several things related to risk and insurance, and a couple of classmates and I were in a real estate finance class, and we wound up starting in our junior year a technology company developing software and really taking advantage of the moment where at that time, which was a little over 30 years ago, certain technologies were becoming more accessible and really exciting to tinker around with. And we decided to turn that into a company and did that for almost a decade, and wound up getting some really fantastic large corporate clients, learning a little bit on the fly, getting some experiences. And as my personal life started to develop, and I met my wife, and we were looking to get married. I had to put some of that on hold, and I went into the consulting world, and I started doing a lot of consulting around financial services and insurance. And I was doing quite a bit that I really loved in that environment. And one of my clients was an insurtech, first generation insurtech about 25 years ago. And after doing some really great things with them, I joined the company to run technology. And 26-ish years later, I'm still working on it.
Amazing. We love to hear a good story. I mean, it's funny, like people think about this as like something new, but we know, especially in the Bold Penguin case, it's been happening for at least 25 years.
Well, Penguin's been around for a decade.
Yeah.
It's I would consider it to be sort of a second generation insurtech.
Mhm.
It's obviously been a very important company, and I have the opportunity to lead it with an amazing group of people. The team around me, some of them are on the call right now, and we kind of have a culture that we call the Glacier, which is just a fantastic way to keep everybody connected as we work all across the country in a bunch of different, locations and from home and from client sites. Bold Penguin is a distribution platform. So when you think about insurance and insurance technology, um, I would say when I think about the first generation of insurance technology, a company called HomeSite, which I was part of the founding team at, was a carrier, and we were bringing some value to the market that we thought was unique as a carrier, as a risk taker, bringing product to consumers and trying to address some of the problems in the industry. Bold Penguin's a distribution platform. So what we try to do through Bold Penguin is we focus on small commercial insurance, and we try to match up agents or brokers that are looking to place risk with carriers or other forms of capital providers that are looking to accept risk. And I would say that from a sort of second generation of insurtech, 10 years ago through today, the distribution platforms have been really exciting, and it's amazing to be part of it now. So I've kind of lived through the first two generations of insurtech, and I think we're at the beginning now with AI of what can really mark a very significant next generation of insurtech and the impact it has on the overall insurance and the economy.
Can you tell us a little bit about, especially the students in the audience, what early experiences most shaped your career early on?
Well, um, you know, experiences are shaping my career every year. I always think of like, it's been like a long arc where I was a consultant. I joined a company. That company was clean sheet of paper, zero customers, zero systems, zero anything. And that company grew on a fairly amazing basis. And I was part of the team that acquired it. And now I have an opportunity to run that company. So it's like kind of a full circle arc, but every year is a different year. I would say my early experiences, especially starting a company when I was in college, is, go deep into something, and um, you'll find problems or opportunities that other people haven't yet found. And if you can move yourself in that direction, and if you have credibility and people trust your judgment, you'll get a lot of running room and you'll be viewed as a trusted advisor. And if you could leverage that trusted advisor position, you can do amazing things in your career without people necessarily always asking you or assigning it to you. You can start to create your own path. And I do that every year of my entire career is try to find challenges or opportunities that other people aren't yet seeing, and then be able to move resources in that direction. And that's a forever. That to me is a forever. Um, Takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of learning, surrounding yourself with people who are equally motivated to create great solutions and be a solution provider. And I always say to myself, and I've said this, in my own ear for years, have guts and be right. And, have the guts to take some bets on yourself, be around people who are willing to, who want to take bets as well in their own career, position themselves to be a leader. Um, but you got to be right. And I know you can't always be right, but it's like do the hard work, get into the details, anticipate, learn, analyze, test, and get to the point where you have enough confidence that you're willing to take the bet. And then when you find out you're wrong, continue to iterate, not pivot. Pivot is sort of like I'm going to stop and I'm going to go in a different direction. Iterate into something you strongly believe in, and you'll find areas of opportunity. And those are two sort of related points, Daniel. But have
Great
guts and
advice.
be right. Have guts and be right. Doesn't mean be reckless. You got to have discipline, but have guts and be right is something that I've always kind of lived with, and I haven't put
Yeah,
it on other people all the time, but I've lived with that myself.
that's great advice. Thank you. So now that you've told us a little bit about seeing the industry change and iterations and all that, what changes have you seen in the industry since you started, and what has surprised you the most?
So if you look at like where I really entered the insurance industry was 2000. You can look at that whole period of time as being a continuum of digital technologies developing, being invented, and maturing over time. The uses of data in ways that had never been used before. And every day there's a use of data that hadn't been done before. So that's a continuum. And AI. And, obviously everybody understands the arc of AI didn't start with ChatGPT and the LLMs. It started, I was talking to Lakshan, who's on the call, and I said, I showed him pictures from 2017 where I was involved in a AI charter dinner. So that's 9 years ago. He showed me then something earlier than 2017 just to prove he's, way cooler and way smarter than I am. But the lessons that I've learned, I'll tell you the lessons that I've learned. One, insurance is a very important and great part of society. It really is the fabric of the economy. It really does sit there as a societal good that allows each of us to take on a level of risk in our lives that we probably wouldn't be able to take on if there wasn't insurance. And I know that may sound like day one of your risk and insurance classes, but when you think of the entrepreneur that wants to start a business, when you think of somebody who's looking to add to their business, when you look at somebody who's looking to buy a house and invest, all of those things can happen in the way that they happen in our economy because there are, lenders, people willing to put up capital, people willing to take a bet on themselves, and then insurance as a very important part of that. The parts of insurance that seem to always benefit the the winners, is that you have to be able to price to risk. You have to be able to price to risk. You have to be able to match price to risk. You have to be able to evaluate risk, match price to risk. Sounds simple. Some do it really, really well consistently, others don't. And it is a splitter between winners and losers. And you have to be able to maximize customer value in some way that is real and differentiated from what others are doing, not across the board, but in some way that customers are going to see that as extra value and reward you with their business and their lifetime business. And those two things are always true. And I guess the surprise that you asked for, Daniel, is that even though it's always true, it's still not the default behavior of all of the participants in the market. And there's lots of reasons for that. But so I'd say that those are things that I learned. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by people who mentored and coached and challenged me so that those types of lessons are imprinted on everything I think about. But it is amazing to see that in our industry, um, sometimes there's hesitation and sometimes there's structural impediments, cultural impediments, others. And it's a risk, it's a splitter between those that really can move in the direction of opportunity based on those beliefs and those that don't or can't and won't. And so both a fundamental truth of the industry and a surprise that isn't likely to go away regardless of any technology shifts that we have.
I agree. And Bold Penguin is bold because it was and continues to be on the forefront, right? That's why we are here today to learn from you. So, can you tell us a little bit about how those early on decisions to use technology, AI, how they were received and how they were implemented as it relates to Bold Penguin?
Sure. I think again, I'll give you sort of my philosophical view, and then I'll apply it to the specifics of Bold Penguin. Um, Anytime that there's a technology shift in the last 25 years, which have been significant, the internet, the iPhone, concepts around big data, cloud computing, certainly digital consumer, apps, etc. The technology is out there, and then it doesn't by itself automatically create anything, right? You have to adapt that technology or invent some sort of uses of the technology. And the first hurdle is always you can't do something and then you can. And so with AI right now and with other technologies earlier on, we're at this incredible stage where things that you couldn't do a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, that swings from you can't to you can. And that's an incredible unlock of opportunity and potential. But it's not automatic. It takes problem solvers, solution providers, discipline, great thinking, great willingness to innovate to flip that bit from you can't to you can. Now, you're going to get resistance. And the resistance is always you shouldn't. Why? You shouldn't sell it. You shouldn't sell insurance on the internet without an agent or without an underwriter. Why? Because of X, Y, and Z. So in order to make the flip, you have to overcome the technology barrier of you can't to you can, and that's always the first wave. And then in order to turn that into something meaningful, you have to change a business model or develop a new business model, which is always going to get the resistance of you shouldn't to you should. And that's cultural impediment, that's consumer reaction, and that's other safeguards around how you implement those technologies to create value for the consumer. And that's, by the way, that's beyond Bold Penguin. That's all forms of innovation, embracing technology. We first we first started selling homeowners insurance on the internet at home site in 2000. And at the time, nobody was doing it. And there was a lot of nobody was doing it stuff that was happening in the early 2000s. And we were able to do it. We built the technology and we were able to do it. That's the you can't to you can. But then immediately the reaction from almost everybody was, but you shouldn't. You're going to get adverse selection. You're going to misprice the risk. You're going to have horrible experience. And as I said, that company is now, by itself a top 10 homeowners insurance company, massively successful, serving millions and millions of customers across the country because we didn't allow those impediments to stop us. We kept pushing ourselves to be able to do it and do it great and do it better than anybody else. Bold Penguin was started with the premise that they were going to make it easier for small business owners to get commercial insurance. And they built up. I wasn't there at the origin of the company, but they built up systems that were allowing them to go from you can't to you can. And then they were very successful in working with lots of different agents and brokers and brands to take on that challenge of adoption. And these are incredible things. And if you can do those things successfully and provide value to a customer who's willing to pay you, you can go from a concept to a very scaled, very important business in a reasonable amount of time. But you have to have patience and discipline, and you have to surround yourself with great people.
I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about, now we know there are companies doing it, but some of the innovation that's exciting to you right now and what's happening that's meaningful in our industry?
I would say that I mean, this is what we do, right? So this is, we are a technology company. We are a solution provider to other great companies. I would say overall in my career in insurance, I've had, and this is the thing, like I've had this incredible opportunity to work with people who I never could have imagined getting a chance to work with over decades now. Work with companies, like some of the greatest companies on earth. We get a chance to work with, I won't name names, but you see some of these incredible companies in our industry, in technology, in cloud computing, in AI. We get a chance to have proximate and collaborative relationships with all of them. And then the impact that we have actually on business owners and consumers is incredible and extremely meaningful. So I just take a departure from the question, Daniel, to um, as everybody's thinking about their career and the types of work that they want to do, um, I didn't set out to do what I'm doing. It's something that I've been very fortunate. But to be now looking back on a fairly long period of time and to be so thankful for the people that I've had a chance to make part of my life and be, involved in their life at such important times of this, your life is full of chapters. But when you have people that are part of your life through so many chapters and to be able to do the things that we've done from a business standpoint, which has been unbelievably rewarding, and the experiences around that, both personal and professional, it truly is something that I would hope everybody as they think about their career recognizes that you can have those experiences as I've had them in pure startups. I've had them in very, very large Fortune 200 companies where we've done amazing things because of the scale and the opportunity that that size company and the importance of that size company creates. And now I'm back again doing it as a builder, among builders that are looking to lead the industry from a smaller, scrappier standpoint. But the experiences I've had in all of them, I wouldn't trade them for anything. Every one of those has been incredibly powerful and incredibly rewarding. So anyway, back to the discussion around AI. Um, I'm I'm incredibly bullish on AI. When we see the impact that it's having within our business already and the impact that it has on our clients, it's incredible. And so I'm incredibly bullish at a unit level of the impact that we're seeing of AI. We do some things where in our business, we don't think about it as just purely AI, right? It's the application of AI for a particular purpose. So when people come to us now and we're able to provide market intelligence on the fly that allows us to understand and score and catalog the risk that they have and then match it to the best provider and bring that to market real time without an intermediary, without an underwriter, without human in the loop. That's an incredible use of technology that actually does a better job than the equivalent alternatives. So that's where we can see right away at scale, with millions of transactions coming through us a year, where the application of technology data together is creating a better, more valuable solution than what we did 6 months or a year ago. So we see that all the time. We have this network that we orchestrate that provides this solution to hundreds of thousands of customers and with dozens of intermediaries and transacting millions and millions, billions of dollars of commercial business per year. And it's incredible to see how quickly a positive change can have positive impact on the entire network as we roll it out. And we're a startup-ish environment, right? So we roll out fast, we test fast, we impact fast. Where I'm, what I would say is two things though. I'm a little less bullish on whether the entirety of the industry is going to achieve the benefits of AI. And the reason I say that about an industry that I love is history, right? I mean, when you look at the impact that Geico had, say, when it started to really drive to the lowest possible cost for personal lines, they simplified their business model. They stayed true to that. They increased their brand value by advertising, and they did the same thing over and over again. And they grew quicker than anybody else in auto insurance and gathered more percent of premium. And the industry watched them for years and didn't have a very significant reaction. And they got a breakout opportunity. Progressive, by far in personal lines, auto, the best pricer. And by continually staying true to that concept, they were able to get into areas of pricing sophistication and uses of data that nobody else was doing. They built systems around it, and it created an ability for them to break out, grow faster and more profitably than anybody else. And when they rolled out Snapshot and telematics for auto usage-based insurance, after years of trying, the rest of the industry didn't really react a whole lot. And so with AI, we'll see similar things where the leaders will have very clear application of the technology. They'll they'll accelerate the change in their organization because they're culturally able to do that. And they'll find those specific applications of the technology where something they couldn't do, they now can. And they'll blow past the cultural impediment because they're attuned to that, and they'll have a breakout opportunity. But when you look at overall AI right now, we still haven't passed the point, and I don't know when we will, where the net investment costs of AI are exceeded by the value achieved through AI. And that's because of internal issues, but it's also the value chain. Look at what people are spending on the capital side around AI. When you look at the use cases that companies are working on right now, they are good, but they're mostly looking at efficiencies within an existing system or process. They're not changing their metrics, they're not changing their KPI. They're basically doing things that they wanted to do 10 years ago, but they keep trying to apply different technology solutions to the same problem space. And that does create this separation of leaders and laggards, or leaders, slow followers, and structurally incapable of getting there. And I think that we'll see that continuing to play out, which is not a criticism, but it is a question, for the people on the call of like, just make sure as you think about your career that you're thinking about the cultural side of the business that you're in and their ability to do things that are going to get them to do something that's a real competitive advantage and a willingness to do it, to have the guts and to do those things. And you'll find incredible opportunities within those organizations.
And it's funny because I keep talking to students with regards to AI on mindset versus skill set. I think there's a lot of fear, right? I need to have the skill. I need to make sure I'm like super honed in. But I keep reminding students that, hey, some of the people leading these charges, They were not in business. AI was not in business when they were in business, right? They've just
Yeah,
had that mindset.
yeah, AI is a massively important domain, but we don't hire like, hey, there's our AI. We're gonna, oh, we need to hire an AI. We hire data scientists and people that have, fundamental skills in analytics. We hire data engineers, people that really know how to work with data, curate data, test different data, make it available for development teams. We hire engineers. We hire designers though. We hire user experience people. We hire product leaders. We don't, AI is not like all of a sudden going to replace a bunch of job categories. It's going to um, change some of the skill set, but it should be a positive. I really, I mean, like every year that I've been around, abstraction layers have come across, things that were hard become simpler, and old jobs get eliminated by new jobs. But, if at any point these things plateaued in the last 25 years, I can't point to it. Every time that we've simplified some of the complexities around technology or simplified some of the complexities around analytics, which is really what AI is doing, it opens up, it unlocks all sorts of things that may have seemed impossible or too hard to take on. And now all of a sudden in that unlock, it creates the opportunity for problem solvers. It creates the opportunity for solution providers. It requires people to be a trusted advisor and then to take on the work, the hard work of then figuring out where you create new value for potentially new customers. And so I would not look at it as I would not look at it as a skill that I'm going to be AI or I'm not going to be AI, or a job like I'm going to be AI or I'm not going to be AI from a job. It is the application of technologies towards solving real market problems that should excite everybody. And by the way, like customers don't think there's an AI problem in insurance, right? If you go to the, South Station in Boston and you stop a whole bunch of customers, you go, "What do you think about insurance?" They're not going to go, "I wish it had more AI." They talk about, affordability, and they talk about trust. Like, oh, my renewal went up, or at renewal I was non-renewed, and now I don't have available options. I have to go to alternative options. Like these are the things, you know, on a global scale, it's the protection gaps, right? It's as there become so insurance is always reacting to mega trends, climate, capital markets, regulatory, and these are long things that play out, sometimes predictably, sometimes not predictably. And then shock losses, shock events, right? Things that break outside of the predicted results in a very short period of time. It could be inflation spikes, it could be catastrophic wind event, it could be a cyber attack. Insurance is always reacting in the near term to the impact of megatrends, which can be positive and negative, and these shock events, which, for the sake of the argument, can be positive and negative, but mostly we think about the negative. Customers are on the impacted side of that. Companies and technologists and companies like Bold Penguin are looking to figure out how can we use and be on the leading edge of technology opportunities to solve those customer problems. And when we do, the customers won't thank us for the AI. They'll thank us for the availability of new solutions to their problems that, allow them to take risk or invest or grow or do something that they want to do. And so, as I think about the group, AI is not a job. AI is not like a uniform skill. And even if AI, which it will, it's incredibly important. It's the most important digital technology of my lifetime by far. And my life has been shaped by digital technologies and the advances of digital technology. It is by far the most important and most interesting. But even if it plays out in ways that you think are going to play out, ultimately the problem solving, the creativity, the solution providing, and the value to the customer is what insurance is going to be based on, not based on the use or the impact of a specific set of technologies.
Both Penguin specifically. Now we know you're using AI. We know you're at the forefront. So can you tell us a little bit of some examples, applications, how Bold Penguin is delivering real value today with underwriting, distribution, claims, risk assessment, and operations?
Yeah, I would say our greatest impact right now is on the underwriting and risk placement side. So as companies are doing in the insurance business, when you think about somebody submitting a quote, that can be for a very small insurance, single product, maybe general liability for a company. That could be very small. That could be done through digital distribution, real time, issued, bound, the whole thing. Bold Penguin is a leader in working with various carriers across the admitted and the non-admitted market to be able to bring those solutions either directly to the consumer, which in that case would be a business owner, or to an agent or to a broker, and everything in between, so that they can get that insurance scored, placed, bound real time. And that uses a lot of data and AI in order to make that high efficacy so that you can do that without a human in the loop. And we do that so I would consider that more on the customer acquisition, risk placement, underwriting automation side of things. On the more complex risks, and the complex side of this could be risks that are, $1 million annual premium that, could be an entire corporation that's placing its D&O or its workers' comp or its property. And these can be submissions that are hundreds or even thousands of documents that are being submit and usually take a broker and a team of risk managers months to put together the fully structured proposal, send it out to different underwriters, and wait for offers or quotes to come back. And that is a huge cost to the industry. Those costs can create all sorts of downside issues to both the providers and the consumers. Bold Penguin has leading technology. There is no company that is more advanced than Bold Penguin in being able to take all of that complexity and take it through at one point it was all proprietary. Now it's a combination of generalized models and proprietary technology so that we can take all of that, break it up into smaller parts, process it fully on an automated basis, enriching the data, scoring the data, um, error correcting the data, and then bringing it all the way through to the underwriter. And in some cases, going all the way through the underwriting process to having the quote right back to the broker in a matter of a couple of minutes versus literally, a month. And so that is a very, very significant use of big data, um, and obviously AI, but all sorts of other engineering techniques that allow that to work in a high efficacy way. And what we do with that is, well, for certain carriers that work with us, that gives them an opportunity to grow more effectively. It allows them to be front in line of certain risks that they want to write and be able to win the business. Um, it has all sorts of other secondary effects as well, which allow us to take on all sorts of things that wouldn't be done before, kind of to the can't be done to can be done, where we can automate massive book transfers of thousands of risks, millions of dollars of risks, and move it to carriers that really want that business on an almost completely automated basis with, completely high efficacy, high quality, and really a better outcome for all of the participants than the alternative. And, those are step factor changes in technology. Once that exists, there is no reason to ever look back. And those are things that really move the market. So we are both a user of technology, but we are a creator of technology and an inventor of solutions. And that's a good place to be.
So for students that are, looking to graduate in the next year or two, from your vantage point, what skills will matter most for the students entering the workforce, in an AI-enabled industry?
I've believed for a very long time it's the intersection of, everybody should be very, very, very comfortable with data and analytics. And, if you're not, you're taking yourself out of all of the future opportunities. And so, as whether you want to be a journalist, or whether you want to be a doctor, or whether you want to be an architect, or whether you want to be another kind of architect, or whatever you want to do, research, um, policy creation, my job, Lakshan's job, whatever job you think you want, being really, really good and really, really comfortable working with data first party, not through sort of like somebody else's filter. Raw data, working with that data, curating that data, and doing real analytics is, to me, you either are doing it and you have an opportunity, or you're not, and you've made a very bad decision. Um, and that doesn't mean just doing things through data applications. It means being able to write code, manipulating the data, transforming, shift. You have to be able to work with data, period. Um, but it's this intersection of sort of like hard technology skills that you have to have. And then what else do you want to do? So it's sort of like the hard sciences and the soft sciences. I think that what you see with companies that are very successful right now, they have this great ability to fuse behavioral sciences and design with hard technology, whether it's computer science, data science, AI, and come up with products and solutions that are innovative in the market. And so to me, cultivating an interest in some areas of behavioral and softer sciences and design, like truly design, because that's what the customer sees, is the experience side of things. And then having more than a cursory knowledge of, data and how data is worked within a system, are really important. And if you have those things, and if you have the curiosity, and if you truly can be a lifelong learner, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want, because you'll bring solutions to the table. You'll bring creative thoughts to the table. You'll see problems before other people see them. And every year of your career will feel entrepreneurial to you, regardless of if you're in a startup or, again, as I said, a $20 billion, 100-year-old Fortune 200 company. Um, so I think that these are skills, and I know it's not about just the skill set, because these will evolve year after year, but these are the foundational skills that I would encourage everybody to want to have. Um, and don't assume that whatever you leave college with as a skill set is that lifelong skill set. You have to continue to be curious and develop yourself and invest in yourself and make time to invest in yourself so that you can have guts and be right. If you don't invest in yourself, again, it's not, don't, the ball won't come to you. The ball comes to those people that invest in themselves, stay hungry, work hard, are curious, and and want to do things that are impactful. And if you have those characteristics, live it and be around other people who are going to drive you to live it. And good things will definitely be more likely to happen than the counter case.
Definitely students look at those coursework, those internships, those hands-on experiences to get you there if you're not there already. But so from your perspective, is there anything that has stood out recently on this new generation that you're excited about to welcome them into the industry?
You ever look at a pond? People hate this analogy, but a pond, the water never moves, right? I mean, it doesn't move, and over time, just a whole bunch of gunk gets on the surface of the water. It starts to smell bad, and it's just static and stale and not happening. And then you see like a little brook or a river, and the water is fresh and clear, and it's always refreshing. It's always moving. It's always doing. It's always, that. And I think organizations have to be more like the latter. And so, come into an organization and don't assume that the benefit that you have into that organization is how quickly you can adapt the behaviors of the incumbency. Come into the organization with outside thinking, come into the organization with curiosity. Don't diss the practices of the company. Try to have empathy and understand why some of the things are happening the way they are, because that'll help you be part of change. But come into any organization, come into Bold Penguin, and to me, we have people like me who've been around for a while who can still bring in value. But I do coffee chats with people every Friday and virtually. And I just like to see what people are bringing to the table. I'm not trying to tell them how to think. I'm not trying to share much about me. I'm trying to learn and give them an opportunity to feel like they can have an impact, even on a company the size of Bold Penguin, which is no longer a small company. Um, and so, just again, if you want to be part of a company that flows like a river, you'll have an opportunity if you bring yourself to it to do amazing things early in your career. I say to my son who's in his mid 20s, look at the great musicians that you love. If you like Bob Dylan, you know, put on track one of his first album. It's like blowing in the wind. He didn't wait till he was in his 30s to do amazing things. He was doing amazing things when he was 22 years old. And you can hit the ground running. You don't have to do something that somebody else did. You can hit the ground running and have an impact in anything you do. But you got to have guts and you got to be right. And you got to be willing to, put a little behind yourself. And then surround yourself with people who are willing to let you do that. Um, and it's true, if you look at all of these great creative people in business or in arts or in anything that you find interesting, oftentimes it was like the first thing they did was legendary. And you can aspire to do that in business.
You gotta have guts and you gotta be right. We keep hearing that over and over. And I tell students whenever you hear something over and over again, that means something. So gotta have guts
And
and
again,
be
it's
right
not
where you're at.
arrogant, and it's not an arrogant
No,
thing, and it
no, of
doesn't mean
course.
you actually have to always be right. It's a
Yeah,
belief thing. And then when you find
yeah.
out that there's new information and new ways and other people who have better ideas, don't be so stubborn. Jump on it and be like, that's a better idea. Let's do that. Let's go for it. And if you can do
Love
that
it.
without having a lot of ego, enough humility, you can go into a lot of environments and just get to the right solution and crush it.
Well, we're at the Q&A portion now for our students. So students, a great time for you to ask some amazing questions. If you have them, you can put them on the chat and or unmute yourself. But I think we have one from Lyndon White in the chat, so we'll start with that. Um, what programming languages, data visualization tools should students be proficient in to pursue their career in insurance analytics?
Python, if you're not as comfortable with Python as you think you should be, then you're not. And I think that Python would be number one on my list. I think it has a great range, and it's certainly applicable to data science. And it started out as perhaps more of a scripting model, but it has evolved into high performance development language. And I think Lakshan, if you agree, give me a nod up and down. There you go. So, and I would say that regardless of what anybody does in their career aspirations, you know, if you've taken the time to do something simple in Python, do the classic hello world, set up a Jupyter notebook, do some programming, do a couple of simple things. The difference in your appreciation for a technology between doing just that and doing nothing is gargantuan, and it'll give you confidence to do other things. So don't just like read the book, do the thing and do it often enough that you can say, okay, I've got a foot in the real water there.
Awesome. We have another question from Travis, but I think Travis is going for the gift card. How do you recommend balancing a relationships-based industry that requires a lot of trust
Yeah.
with implementing new technologies?
You can't implement new technologies in market if you don't have a level of trust. So to me, and especially as you think about the way technology is moving, you have these think about big data, right? If generalized models are taking all of the existing data and creating these amazing predictions through generalized models, and if everybody's using them, then it's the edge data that hasn't yet been brought in that's going to be the path for differentiation and competitive advantage. So edge data lives on the edge. It lives in my device, it lives in my smart TV, it lives in the experiences we have in our lives. And that becomes then the difference between general purpose technology and insights and predictions versus competitive advantage. The only way you can get that data that lives on the edge is high trust and high value. It raises the stakes of trust to get access to the data, and it requires a much higher level of trust back, but also higher levels of value. And so to me, they're not separable. Those companies that have a brand and have practices that are based fundamentally on trust and value will be the ones who actually live inside of your life in a way that matters, and you will share more data with them, which will allow them to deliver more value, which will make them the leaders in all industry. But as soon as that's breached, it could collapse to zero. So the stakes become much higher on both dimensions of trust and value.
We have a question, I believe, is from Dr. Liu from UTRGV, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, what kind of keywords would you be looking for? Perhaps probably your HR team, Peter. Would you be looking, or would Bold Penguin be interested in seeing in a Vita or a resume to, screening out hiring processes? What kind of keywords are we leaning towards?
Not really a keyword person because keywords are, storytelling. I like things that have symbols like percentages and commas and dollars and, things that actually show impact. Like I ran this experiment and we got a 17% improvement in, funnel progression rate. Or I did this thing and it saved 32 cents for every customer call per year. Or I did this, or we did this thing and we were able to speed up the releases by, 1.5x. It doesn't have to be gargantuan. But if you put together a beautiful resume of all of this narrative and it doesn't have dollar signs, percentages, and commas and symbols like that, it tells me you're not thinking about it the way I think about it. And I like to think about impact and attempts. Those attempts don't all have to be successes. We ran 17 experiments. Of the 17 experiments, we knew within a month that 13 of them were failures. We whittled it down to four more, and we ran additional exercises, and we had three that had, positive contribution, but not enough to continue the experiment. Great. I'm seeing disciplined thought there, but I can't see that just from words. So I can't answer it on keywords. I can answer it in terms of like the way I can understand the way people are thinking about problem solving and the way they think about positive or negative contribution. And that matters a lot to me. A lot. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Oh, hi, Peter.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, you.
Yeah, this is Yu Liu. Since you are answering my questions, thank you for answering that. And just a follow-up question. So since here I'm teaching many undergraduate students. Now I know like what you focus is not on some keywords, but on real effects.
Yep.
But however, many of the students, they don't have a job yet. Now they're just going after, they may have a vita to say, okay, I have a GPA which look decent. I have take some classes. I have some skills. And
Mhm.
then, they don't have some real story or some real work done yet, then what should they do to get them after for the first step to get a job?
Well, if you're at that point in your career, then absolutely, the things you do within your school and your academics are going to get you perhaps past certain filters. But no matter what school you go to and no matter what grade you got in whatever class you got, you are not one of one.
Mhm.
And you could be fewer, right? There could be fewer people that have achieved that same level, and that'll get you a lot of consideration. But
Right.
assume that you're not going to be one of one no matter what you've done
Mhm.
or no matter how you create a narrative around it. So, what would you do then to distinguish yourself among other great candidates? And I think a little bit of self-motivation to say, I created this app, or I started a user group and we did these things, or I participated in a user group and we built these things. And from those things, you can have outcomes.
I
And
see.
the way in which the way in which you capture the outcome. And as I said, it doesn't have to be massive scale,
Mhm.
but the way in which you capture that outcome and then bring it back to your career objectives or your academic objectives and connect those dots, to me is a way in which you can distinguish yourself and become a one of one
Oh,
among other equally great candidates. I understand a lot of that now is AI scoring the resumes, and I understand that creates complexities.
mhm.
That's a whole other topic, and I'm not here to gamify AIs. It's very important to build your own personal network and have people that can help you along the way. It's a very different topic. But to me, what distinguishes people is even in the earliest part of their career and learning,
Mhm.
self-motivation, creating tangible outcomes. And you'd be surprised, you have more of them than you think. And then the way in which they cast that back into their experiences and and credentials. I started a company when I was in college. We had way more failures than successes, but I've been able to turn that into positive um, components of who I am and carry it to this day. So don't be surprised if you do this properly. You can create meaningful separation in your own experiences, even at an early age.
I see.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
I see you
We're
focus on the tangible in outcome, even like no matter how small it is, it's some tangible.
Correct. Correct. Because it's a mindset. It's how you think about it and how you connect dots.
right.
It's not just the
Yeah.
magnitude of your early results. It's a mindset and how you're thinking about it. And then can I scale that thought process into
Mhm.
bigger problems? And if I think I can, then I absolutely want you on my team.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right.
Thank you
Well,
for
I'm
the
going to
question.
go to Latoria. I know you had your hand up because also a professor from the University of Akron, Ohio. We have a lot of
Oh,
questions in the chat, but the chat is hot. I don't think we're going to have time for all of them, but Latoria, please
the
ask your question.
Zips. Go Zips.
Yeah, go
I
Zips. Yeah.
I opened a call center in Akron off Canal Street in 2004. I don't know how long you've been in Akron, but I just gave away one of my age clues. Uh, but yeah, and home of LeBron
That's
James. I
amazing.
mean, the Akron is a great city. All right, sorry.
Absolutely. Yes. No, thank you so much for that, Peter. I just, want to start out by saying that was one of the best talks I've heard so far this year. I mean, you just laid everything out and made it clear and plain, especially with respect to how your organization is using AI and how it's benefiting your customers. I think that's great. My question is, we do have some students on the call that are new to risk management insurance. So, if you could briefly just explain what an insure tech is and how it differs from your traditional insurance company, I think that would be great, so that students understand that, working for an insure tech company, there are definitely some advantages. I mean, working with traditional insurance company, which I did for many years, is also great, but just so that they understand the difference between insurtech and traditional insurance companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question, Latoria. In InsurTech, it's a term that's been around now for maybe 20 years. And really, at a time, it was really around startup companies that are in insurance. When you think about the big insurance companies, many of them are 100 years old, and they're great companies. But when you think about 25 years, venture capital's come into the market, new forms of investment have come into the market, and a lot of the problem space that I talked about has been more interesting for people to solve. So insurtech's usually a term to describe kind of a startup in the insurance industry that is doing something specifically with technology and data that is innovative or different than what the incumbents, the existing companies have done. That's a 25-year-old term. I would say that now no real company in the insurance sector, whether they've been around for 100 years or 100 days, is not fundamentally working with technology and data as a core part of their business. But the insurtechs have been incredible contributors to the industry. Some of the most interesting companies with uses of data that bigger companies buy that data were insurtechs that started up in the last, 10 years or so. As I talked about Bold Penguin, a really important company in commercial insurance space. Um, what you're seeing now, I think really interesting, are these MGAs, which I don't know if you guys talk about MGAs, but where MGAs used to be a way for incumbent insurance companies to make their capital available for an agent that wanted to make a market. What you're really seeing now is the structure of the MGA as a way to bring alternative capital into the market. And it's an incredible and important way for us to think about protection gaps and risk in that whether it's in the E&S non-admitted space or areas around specialty underwriting, alternative capital can come in and really want to solve some of those hardest problems. This company might not want to take Florida cat. Well, this company might only want to take Florida cat. And so it's a great way to put problem solutions at a very granular level to specific issues. And I think that is a great and important thing that's happening in the insurtech space is it's no longer like a couple of startup people in a garage. It's very sophisticated capital, very sophisticated insurance minds that are going after very specific problems with great underwriters and great pricing actuaries and bringing solutions to the market that actually can solve some areas where there's a void. Um, and provide value to customers. So I know I went a little bit in a couple of directions there, Latoria, but the sort of the behavior of what InsurTech has been has changed a little bit over this 25 years. And we're at this point now where it's very smart money, very smart insurance minds, very great technologists solving sometimes very granular problems. And I think that that is a very important reality of where we're at. I'll bring it back to AI. People, I think, mistakenly think that when there's a value chain and one part of it is positively impacted, let's say by AI, that the rest of that value chain might stay the same. It doesn't. The value chain shifts either because of direct correlation to the use of AI or because of external factors like climate. You guys have an opportunity to rethink things, and that generally gets into some amazing areas of innovation. And it's usually through insurtechs that you experiment into those areas of innovation. I know we're at 2 o'clock. This is actually one of my favorite topics. And sort of the rethinking of the form factor of insurance as AI solves parts of the problems that weren't solved before. How does the form factor of insurance, meaning in which how do you interface with it and what is it? The product changes, the experience changes, the way in which we interact with it changes, and you all will have an opportunity to lead that evolution of insurance with AI being a great unlock that allows you to rethink those types of things. And that's where massive opportunity sits. Massive opportunity.
Amazing. We
Well, we
don't say
love
that lightly.
Spencer and we love our partnership with Spencer.
Thank
And
you.
you guys are going to continue to make this industry as important as it is and deliver on some of those areas that need the most customer value. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope it was worth the price of admission.